Good evening. I'm Michael Milch, the mayor of Gladstone. I was the chairperson of the Budget Committee for the fiscal year 2023 to 2025. So I'm going to call the meeting to order tonight, although we may change chair for the Budget Committee tonight. This is the Gladstone first Budget Committee for the fiscal year 25 to 27. It is Monday, May 19th, 2025. I don't have it on the agenda in front of me like I usually do. Perhaps we could begin by going around and identifying, first of all, the city councilors and budget committee members who are here, and then we'll bring in staff and guests. So again, I'm Michael Milch, mayor.
Andrew Labonte, city council.
Oh, and let me remind you, the microphones in front of you, turn them on to speak and try to talk as much into the microphone as you can. All right, so let's do that. Let's do it again.
Andrew Labonte, city council.
Ina Harrington, budget committee.
Gabrielle Blau, city council.
Shane O'Brien, budget committee.
Maria Mitchell, city council.
Rose Fuller, budget committee.
Vanessa Huckabee, city councilor.
And online we have.
Mindy Garlington, city council.
And was Josh able to get on? Well, let's see. We think we have one more. Okay. All right. All right. And then let's start here with staff.
I'm Jackie Betts, city administrator.
Kathy Brucker, finance consultant.
Michelle Peruso, community center.
John Schmerber, chief of police.
I'm Silas Richardson, the public works director.
Behind the screen, we have.
I'm Haley Krotz. I am executive assistant to the city administrator.
Thank you, Haley. And our guest tonight.
Christy Corbett, future city councilor.
All right. Very good. So as soon as we can get Josh on the screen, we'll acknowledge he's here as well. So I'm going to turn things over now at this point to our city administrator and finance director to present the executive report and then introduce the budget to us. And then we'll take some action as far as who's chair and all the rest after that. Or do you want to do that first?
I think we go ahead and elect a chair and a vice chair.
Okay. So we need to elect a chair and vice chair for this meeting. This may be the only time we have to meet. We may have to meet twice. So it needs to be somebody who can be available for both, or if whoever we elect for chair can't come to the second, but the vice chair can, that would work too. So is there a nomination from the combined committee of city council and budget committee members for someone to chair the meeting tonight?
You don't want individual nominations because we didn't have a chance to talk about this prior to this meeting.
No, you can, well, you can nominate someone, and if they don't want to choose that, they can indicate that they would not be comfortable.
Okay, thank you. I
Okay.
nominate you, Michael Milch.
Are there other nominations? All right, well, we can take a vote. All in favor of having me, Michael Milch, serve as chair of the budget committee, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, I will continue to serve as chair. I will try not to talk as much as I did the last time 2 years ago. We had a lot of new people then. It took us a long time to get things going. So the City Council is abiding by guidelines set forth in House Bill 2560, which requires the governing body of the public body to the extent reasonably possible to make all meetings accessible remotely through technological means and provide opportunity for members of the general public to remotely submit oral and written testimony during meetings to the extent in-person oral and written testimony is allowed. Therefore, this meeting will be open to the public, both in person and virtually using the Zoom platform. And we had asked that if members of the public wanted to comment on an agenda item or during the public comment, they could mail their comments to the city recorder prior to noon today. Haley, do you know if we got any requests to testify at the Budget Committee?
I do not believe we did.
Okay, thank you. All right, we've appointed a Budget Committee chair. Is there a nomination for someone to serve as vice chair?
I'll nominate Councilor Huckabee.
Any other nominations? All right, Councilor Huckabee, would you be willing to serve in that capacity? You don't have to take notes. You don't have to. That's the city recorder will serve as secretary unless Budget Committee advises otherwise. Okay. All right. All those in favor of having Councilor Vanessa Huckabee serve as the vice chair of the Budget Committee, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Also, we'll record that as unanimous approval. All right. So next, we would normally have public comment in case there are citizens who wanted to say anything about this, about what we have so far. Since we don't have anybody for that, we will go ahead and get into the presentation and introduction of the budget as presented to the committee.
Okay, so I'm going to start off by reading the budget message into the record, which all of you should have a copy of. So to the Honorable Mayor, members of the Gladstone City Council, citizen members of the Budget Committee, and citizens of the City of Gladstone. The City of Gladstone's proposed budget for 2025-2027 is a reflection of the city's priorities and commitment to its residents. Required by Oregon law, the budget focuses on transparency, responsible spending, and strategic investments. It outlines how resources will be directed to key areas such as public safety, economic development, parks, infrastructure, and community and belonging. Every dollar spent is aimed at making Gladstone a safe, thriving, and inclusive place to live. Therefore, it is my pleasure to present for your consideration a balanced budget of $75,018,580 for the fiscal years 2025-2027, which is an increase of 5.07% from the previous biennial budget. The increase is attributable to increasing costs in materials and services, labor expenses throughout all budget categories, offset by reduced grant expenditures with the completion of the ARPA funding in the first year. Debt service is steadily reducing each year also. Contingency appropriations, including restricted funds, have also increased by 40.10%, which is a positive economic indicator for the city. The budget is structured into 10 distinct funds covering 17 programs, along with the Urban Renewal Agency, which maintains a separate budget. It is important for citizens to understand that revenue sources are allocated for specific expenditures and must be used solely for their intended purpose. Each fund is designed to track transactions in alignment with specific programs, ensuring responsible management of public dollars. Transfers between funds can only occur with the appropriate budgetary approvals. The city's finance consultant prepared the document under the guidance of the city administrator with the collaboration of the management team. We have spent considerable time preparing the budget, utilizing the most accurate information to predict revenues and expenditures for the next 2 years. In January, the City Council conducted a goal-setting session, shaping objectives that have been integrated into our work plan for the next 2 years. These goals build on the successes of recent years, ensuring continued momentum as we move into the next biennium. They are outlined in detail with the budget document. The city's permanent tax rate continues to be $4.8174 per thousand. The city is collecting the full permanent levy amount, and we are optimistic that revenues will remain steady. One caveat to collecting the full permanent levy amount is if there is a successful annexation into Clackamas Fire District beginning July 1, 2026, then the city will reduce the amount they collect to $3.0674 per thousand and will also no longer collect for the fire levy, which is 31 cents per thousand. This is discussed further below. Economic factors in the budget. As you all know, Gladstone has minimal vacant land, limiting the potential for a substantial increase in property tax revenue from qualifying improvements under Property Tax Limitation Measure 50. Despite this, infill development is progressing alongside notable advancements in downtown revitalization. Strategic planning for infrastructure improvements, followed by enhanced streetscape design and integrated tourism initiatives, will support downtown businesses and the broader community. A significant milestone in this effort was completing the new Gladstone Library, part of the Clackamas County Library District, which has significantly enhanced the downtown corridor over the past year. In November of 2021, Gladstone voters approved up to $5 million in funding for the reconstruction and remodeling of the Public Works facility on its existing site. The new Civic Center buildings adjacent to this facility contribute to a cohesive and visually appealing municipal complex. The Public Works Departments moved into the updated facility in April 2024, with the project coming in under budget, allowing for additional improvements. Pavements will be made through 2039, with 10% covered by the general fund and the remaining balance distributed equally among the road and street, water, sewer, and storm sewer funds at 22.5% each. In 2024, the Gladstone Senior Center was renamed the Gladstone Community Center to broaden its appeal and encourage engagement across all age groups. Efforts to expand programs, events, and activities will continue, fostering a vibrant and connected community. A substantial portion of the ARPA funds, known as the American Rescue Act funds, and we're talking about 1.2 million that Gladstone received, was allocated to the sewer and stormwater funds infiltration and inflow project, with design finalized the previous year and project completion achieved early in 2025. Efforts to secure grants and other economic opportunities from county and state sources remain ongoing. However, due to economic uncertainty and the high matching fund requirements, the city's ability to pursue additional funding is somewhat constrained. Personnel changes that have been incorporated are discussed below. The proposed budget includes 55.60 full-time employees that we reference as FTE. The FTE counts are based on the first year of the biennial budget, and individual budget details have the breakdown. The counts are also based on each employee's departmental allocation, accounting for slight differences between fiscal years. Some things to note is that within the Public Works Department, one FTE position has been added for parks maintenance. There was a decrease of half of the FTE in the nutrition coordinator position at the community center, along with an increase of a part-time of the tram driver, which is technically a net zero increase overall. And there is an increase of 0.5 FTE permanently for the utility billing clerk. Currently, that position is split between property and evidence in the police department. Clackamas Fire District has provided emergency fire and medical services to Gladstone under a service contract since June of 2022. However, the current agreement does not fully align with the service levels and budgets allocated to other communities within the fire district. To address this, Gladstone and Clackamas Fire have been engaged in ongoing discussions to explore options that will ensure long-term, high-quality emergency fire and medical services for the residents of Gladstone. Staff intends to recommend the City Council refer the annexation into Clackamas Fire District to the voters in the November 2025 election. If the election is successful, the city will be required to file a new LB 50 for fiscal year 2026-27 and do a resolution realigning the budget to coincide with the tax collections. Labor expenses driven by increasing costs associated with retirement benefits, specifically the Public Employees Retirement System that we refer to as PERS, are expected to increase over the next several years. For Gladstone, the actuary increase is an average of 6.9 percentage points to the previous rate, or a 20.2% overall increase. These rates will be in effect throughout the biennium, and they will pose a financial challenge for future budget cycles. The city has two collective bargaining agreements, one with the Gladstone Police Association and another with the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, referred to as AFSCME, Local 350-03. Both agreements are set to expire on June 30th, 2025, and the city is currently engaged in negotiations to establish a new 2-year contract. Utility rate fees for water, sanitary systems, and stormwater services are determined by customer usage. The revenue generated for each specific fund is exclusively allocated to its operational and capital expenses. Annual revenue estimates consider historical trends alongside planned rate adjustments. A 3% annual rate increase is factored into the 2025-2027 biennium. The last biennium, we had a 4% increase, so this is a decrease that we're asking for. If these adjustments are not approved, the budget will require modifications. The city is committed to maintaining a healthy general fund ending balance, aiming for a minimum of 10% of unreserved general fund revenues, as outlined in its financial policy. This budget includes a reserve of $857,421. Additionally, $915,791 is designated as restricted funds for business development, community promotion, and transient lodging tax revenues. Therefore, the general fund's unappropriated ending fund balance before reserves for this year stands at $1,889,042. In closing, the recommended biennium budget maintains current services and uses the city's resources effectively. As we move forward with accomplishing the council's goals, we welcome community engagement and collaboration. Your voice is essential in shaping the future of the city of Gladstone. Together, we will continue working toward a city that reflects the aspirations of all who call it home. Respectfully submitted by Jackie Betts, City Administrator.
Thank you, Jackie. Would you like to entertain some questions on your overall statement? Or should we begin to get right into details? What do you think is the best way to proceed?
I think we start with each department, and then that's when we'll go through questions of the details.
Very good. All right. We'll turn it over to our financial consultant, Kathy Brucker, to
Thank you very much. What I would like to do now is walk you through the first two sections of the budget document before you tonight for the 2025-2027 biennium, which of course covers 2 fiscal years. So you also received an analysis of the budgetary ending fund balances, this page right here that was a handout tonight. The actual and estimated for FY 16-17 through FY 24-25. It's important to note that almost every fiscal year shows an increase, and to the effects of the utility rate increases are evident in FY 19-20 and FY 20-21. The increase to the utilities fund balances will allow the city to continue the much-needed infrastructure improvement projects. The general fund and the road and street fund show the most impact from the two-year pandemic. State shared revenues all reduced and have only somewhat stabilized. The impacts of healthier lifestyles have reduced the quote-unquote sin taxes of liquor, tobacco, and marijuana. And electric vehicles and remote work environments reduce the gas tax revenue, which was partially offset by the vehicle registration tax implemented by Clackamas County. In the introduction section, the budget calendar is on page 5, details out the rest of the budget adoption process. Should another meeting be needed after tonight, it'll be noticed next week and held on June 2nd, 2025. The council is scheduled to adopt the approved budget on June 24th, 2025. The final legal date is June 30th to comply with Oregon budget law. Referencing the city organizational chart, the foldout that you have there, please bear in mind that this chart lists all personnel, including volunteers and contracted services under their home departments. This will not necessarily tie to the summary of FTEs that's presented later in the budget book. Also, the council goals are presented in a condensed format for you of the annual goal setting report to enhance the readability and information of the document. Overall, the budget user guide provides much of the same information that was discussed at the budget orientation meeting that was held on April 21st, covering process, procedure, and the fund structure of the city. The budget summary section, which starts on page 33, details all the revenue received within the city by category. As noted, charges for services and local taxes are our largest revenue source. Our major revenues consist of the local taxes, consisting of property taxes within general police and fire levy funds, the transient lodging taxes, and vehicle registration taxes. Property taxes include the general fund base rate, as Jackie had mentioned, of 4.8174 per thousand on the assessed value, and include a 2.5% and 3% increase for inflation and growth for each year, and also the levy taxes for police and fire services. You may note our first year property taxes is reduced slightly in overall percentage of increase, and this was due to our urban renewal district boundary increase. So this impacts all taxing districts within city limits, including ourselves. The city will ultimately recover those tax dollars once the URD sunsets. All collections are budgeted at 95% of the levy amount for fiscal year to allow for delinquencies, et cetera. Transient lodging tax is 6% of all lodging stays under 30 days, and as mentioned, took a significant hit from the pandemic. It has shown strong signs of recovery already and should continue to grow over the next biennium. The city has 2 hotels and then several short-term rentals within our boundaries. Vehicle registration tax began during the 2019-2021 biennium and is a helpful source of revenue for the Roads and Street Fund. State shared revenues, again, the sin taxes, along with gas tax, are estimated based on state developed formulas, mainly population based. These will be discussed further with the public hearing later on. Charges for services applies in general fund, but are most impactful in the utility funds. Current and future revenues are budgeted, as again mentioned, at inflationary increases only for the proposed biennium, estimated at 3%. The sewer pass-through increases are budgeted at 5% for West and 7.5% for Oak Lodge Water District. And please bear in mind, we have no control over those. We are told what they will charge and we pass through. Grants. Our grant revenue budget consists of anticipated traffic safety grants, the Good Neighbor grants received from Water Environmental Services, the Nature Park grant from Oregon Recreation and Parks, the Land and Water Conservation Fund for the Loop Trail, and the Metro grant for the Nature Park restrooms and pavilion construction. Also, the balance of ARPA funds will be recognized in FY 25-26 as general fund revenue recovery, which are recognized when spent. So on to page 39, detailing the expenditure summary by category for all funds. Some notable items in personnel services are personnel services increased by several factors this biennium, the increased staffing in public works and admin, the COLA increases in an equity study further increased wages, benefit costs increased proportionately, and both bargaining units are settling new 2-year contracts. Those have not been settled yet, so we are still in a estimate phase on personnel costs. PERS rates surged by an average increase of 6.9 or an overall increase of 20.2% for the next 2 years. Last biennium budget as a comparison was only an average of 1.54% or an overall of 7.04. So you can see there was quite an increase this time. As always, the future will depend much on ongoing interest earnings and legislative decisions. Another data point for benefits is the percentage overall to salaries. There's been a 5.1% increase to 64.26% total over the previous biennium. So that, as far as what we're talking about there, is what our benefits cost for our employees. The net increase in personnel of 3.16 FTE positions has been reconciled on the summary of FTE on page 101, which we'll be reviewing later in the meeting. Materials and services have stayed within a fairly reasonable rate of increase of 5.21% overall. The rate of inflation has impacted overall costs, and managers are endeavoring to control needs and stay within 3% as much as possible. Utilities and district pass-through costs are beyond our control, however, and have contributed to that 5.21% increase. And when I say utilities, I'm talking about natural gas, electricity, et cetera, the same things we all have to pay at home too. So they charge, we pay. And that's basically it. Capital outlay, as mentioned earlier, funds are accumulating within capital outlay for reserves for equipment, vehicle replacement, and infrastructure improvements. The city was able to complete some significant projects during this current biennium, such as the Public Works Facility, the sewer improvements in connection with Oak Lodge Water District, inflow and infiltration project in conjunction with West for both sewer and stormwater funds, the Evergreen Storm Line project, and installation of a new playground equipment at Mildred Bar Park, and a revitalization of Robin Hood Park. Each department highlights 2025 and 2027 budget items for capital improvements, and it's along with the capital outlay detail on page 97. Transfers out reflect the broadening of our cost allocation model to include both administration and information technology services. These disbursements allow recovery in the general fund of costs that are citywide related. So are there any questions on any of these sections? It's a lot of information. And then we go into the next section, which is the general fund information, leading off with the general fund revenues. These have been conservatively estimated as normally practiced, but with an economic recognition of any upcoming changes. Excluding beginning fund balance and transfers in, general fund revenues are forecasted to increase overall by approximately 12% for the biennium, mainly from grant revenue and franchise fees. The grant revenue is not sustainable, but does allow funding for capital projects that will improve our parks and playgrounds. If there are any questions on the general fund revenue, if not, I will turn it over to Jackie to start the departmental discussions.
Okay, so we're going to start on page 47, and this is the administration department, which I wanted to highlight includes the city council, administrative support to the city administrator, human resources, risk management, our finance department, and planning services, which we consult out for. So a lot of work in administration, just some noteworthy things underneath the budget highlights. Again, we bulleted the city council goals that we will be focused on. And there's going to be a heavy emphasis in the next 5 years, I think, in the downtown revitalization plan on Portland Avenue and redevelopment. We also have the Trolley Trail Bridge replacement phase 2. And for those that are following it, we're really close to getting the funding to construct the Trolley Trail Bridge. So that will be an exciting project to, if that happens. As we mentioned, we're also talking about the Clackamas Fire District annexation. And our planning department, which we contract with 3J Consultant, is doing long-range planning for us as well. So if you look at, we typically don't get into line item detail, but there's a couple of things I just wanted to call out to your attention, and that is under community promotions, business development, and tourism promotion activities. Those are restricted funds, which basically means that many years ago, the city council adopted a resolution that when you get a business license, a percentage of that has to go towards community promotions and business development. And we have a small percentage that goes towards administration of that. So some of the programs that we will be working on out of community promotions, business development, we currently do community event grants to support the development and marketing of festivals, such like Arbor Days, one that we funded this year. We'll be funding the arts fair that's coming up. We're going to be working on a downtown Gladstone facade improvement program to help businesses revitalize their spaces with paint or awnings. Music on the Greens, which our Gladstone Community Center manager has been very successful with. We have funding going towards that program. We also do business development and education, Main Street programming and development, and business socials. So those are kinds of programs that we would be spending money on. Also, please note that out of that line item is $147,000 for matching funds that were required on the Trolley Trail Bridge project. In the tourism line item, those are also restricted funds, and we have to spend those on events or programs or things that would attract somebody to want to come and visit Gladstone, and it's got to be based off of the tourism strategy that we developed several years ago. So examples that we have now is we have a flower basket program. We have banners on signs on Portland Avenue. We've added snowflakes for the holiday. We are advertising with the Mount Hood Territory in Travel, Oregon. We're going to be doing some placemaking projects, extending our mural program, additional wayfinding signs, and then, of course, as I mentioned, additional holiday street decor. So those two items that you see in the administration budget, those are just some examples of how that money will be spent. All of the travel, training, items also include 7 elected officials, the staff that I mentioned in finance and the city administration. So there are a lot of League of Oregon City conferences that we go to. Clackamas County has goal-setting planning that some of the elected officials go to. And we have multiple memberships that the city as a whole belongs to that also come out of the administration budget. So with that, I will entertain any questions that you may have.
Questions from board members looking up at the screen? I will clarify, when you defined what administration was, the first thing you said was city council. Just for the public who's not aware, city council members do not receive compensation for their service. But as you brought up, attending these conferences and trainings is the main way that our expenses to attend and participate for those and bring back good knowledge and experience to the city is supported by the city budget.
Yeah, and thank you for that clarification. I wish you got paid more, but you don't. Yes. I also wanted to say under the city council activities, it costs a lot of money to have a ballot measure, just like we have one on the current special election. And with the fire annexation, we're forecasting that to come in. That's probably going to be between $10,000 and $15,000 to place a ballot measure on the November 2025 ballot. So those are the kinds of things that come out of those line items for the city.
All right. Any other questions? Councilor Blau?
Do we have a specific amount for downtown revitalization grants yet?
Not yet, no.
Thank you.
Okay, so if there's no other questions on that, I'll move along to the Information Technology Department. And the IT manager provides the support citywide for all the hardware, software, and networking, mobile infrastructure, and strategic technical plan. The cybersecurity is a top concern, and preventatives are constantly evaluated and implemented to ensure a secure system. Equipment stays up to date, utilizing a replacement cycle that we developed back in 2019, 2021, with a constant review for best use of funds. Information technology is part of our cost allocation plan, so that cost benefiting all city departments can be distributed and recovered back to the general fund. Much was accomplished in this last biennium, and significant projects are planned for 25-27, such as upgrades, replacements to servers and desktop systems, various software purchases within the city as far as upgrades to licenses, some new programs, etc. So that is basically it. With
I was talking to our IT manager today, and I said, do you remember back before computers and technology, we could have $1 million to do other things for cities.
Yes.
But the way that we look at it is information technology is like infrastructure now. It's like water, sewer, storm, and we have to have IT. We do have an exceptional IT manager, but as you can see, the bulk of it is in that computer technology service, and that's to pay for the 55 employees. There's a charge to have email accounts, to have licenses to work on the computers, and the subscriptions that go with that. So yes, you did a good job, Kathy.
Thank you. And then going to the next department in line is the municipal court. And this is the court that ensures our municipal ordinances are recognized and enforced in the areas of public safety and traffic safety. Amy Lindgren, our presiding judge, has ensured accountability of court's fines and citations, resulting in recovery of court-related revenues. Other beneficial practices such as arraignment and sentencing at the jail or over the phone for court-appointed defense attorneys have facilitated completed adjudication of these cases. And then we go into Public Works with Facilities.
Can I ask a question?
Facilities would be in there
Yes.
too. Yeah.
Have we done any bids for what it would cost to get just like a third party to do our IT services?
To get a what, I'm
Just
sorry?
like a third party to do our IT services, what that would look like per year?
Yeah, actually, before we hired it in-house, we did contract out for like 8 years, and we found that it was more cost-effective to have one full-time FTE. We do have an emergency contract IT provider as well, but we went the other direction for IT services.
Okay, and do you know if the contracting services is like a standard monthly contract, or is it per hour? Because I'm sure you can get something per hour, or is it standard?
It is per hour and it's only on an emergency basis.
And do
when
we
our
run that
IT man-
maybe
Hmm?
every few years just to get that quote updated? Because with PERS going up, I mean, the cost will.
The
increase.
cost that is spent on that IT, backup contract services is very little. Basically, and we've been able to rely on our IT manager. The
But
con-
I'm sorry, I don't think I'm phrasing my question correctly. If we were to get rid of the position and just have a third-party IT service that does everything, what would that quote look like? I'm just curious.
We have not gone out for a quote like
Yeah.
that in a long period of time. I don't know.
I feel like it'd be a
As
good
far as what
practice
a
to at
recent
least run a
is.
quote just to see a
Mhm.
comparison. Just to see. I'm in the field and so we spend a whole lot less than this. I'm not in this field.
Yes.
And it's not more than $1,600 a month.
And are you talking about the contractual and professional line item or computer and technology service?
I'm talking about the salary up top,
Oh, I see.
the total.
I think
salary.
she's talking about not having a city
Yes.
position
Just
at all
doing it.
and just contracting for
Mhm.
services.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that is the
Mhm.
solution, but it'd be nice to see what that cost might look like.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. You said facilities. There is a sheet of facilities on page 53 of our packet, which came before the municipal court. But
Yes,
you're
I
gonna
apologize.
group it in with the public works? Is that right? or
Well,
you're gonna go
Silas
back?
is up here to discuss it and I apologize. I
Oh.
jumped ahead of him with coming up with the court.
Okay,
So we're one ahead and one behind.
very good.
Thank you. Facilities is responsible for basically taking care of the facilities that we own and operate, including City Hall, Police Department, Gladstone Fire Station, Community Center, and Public Works. As has been noted a couple times, the biggest noteworthy item for facilities is the Public Works facility being completed. So that's great. And the last biennium, in the upcoming biennium, it's going to be basically just providing well-maintained and keeping up on all the maintenance that goes on with the facilities that we have. So the budget itself is pretty self-explanatory. Probably the largest line item is contractual and professional services. And some of those items would be like HVAC contracts, pest control services, our emergency generator services, alarm monitoring costs for all facilities, and then things like parking lot seal coating, fire safety doors, and different inspections that go with different annual alarms like fire alarms and things like that. There's also the citywide janitorial service, but we split that within the parks budget as well. O&M line item, that's kind of where we're going to be taking our standard repair items, paints, materials, tools, roof repairs, any sort of siding repairs, things that we can do this within our span of control or work. So any questions?
What is the building reserve fund?
That is part of our capital outlay section. And basically what we do there is set aside a small amount of money every fiscal year or biennium for that. And then we will roll that if the money goes unspent. What it consists of this year was In there, we've got funds for, help me out on this one, Silas, we've got funds for, we have a 10,000 matching grant for work at the community center with CDBG dollars from the county. We have a couple other small things that we have in there, but the bulk of it is the 10,000 for the community center, plus, as I say, a small reserve set aside.
Great, thank you. And just, it is small because where I get nervous is even though we've built these new buildings, the public works, this building, we still have a community center, the fire department, we own that building, and also the old library. So if we have something catastrophic or of significance that needs fixed, we're just starting to build our reserves for that, so.
I have a question. On the salaries line item,
Mhm.
that seems like a small number to me. Who is represented in those salaries?
There's only one FTE for
Okay.
facilities, and it's a
Okay, so
utility
then-
worker too.
Yeah, and then a small portion of Silas.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Anything else? Okay. Thank you.
I think you might need, oh, no, we do have some other things, other departments first before we get
He's
into
gonna go
detailed.
fast.
All right.
And then we are on to police.
All right, Chief Schmerber.
Good evening. A little bit about our police department budget. First, I'm gonna go over it, and I know you guys have it in your books, but read the first couple paragraphs. Because that's really what covers our budget. The Gladstone Police Department's mission is in partnership with the community. Members of the Gladstone Police Department will enhance the quality of life, strengthen our neighborhoods, and deliver services through professionalism, respect, commitment to excellence. The department is committed to protecting the lives of our community members. Our goal is to ensure that our community feels safe to walk our streets and to picnic in our parks with their families. We will conduct police activities that help us achieve these goals while ensuring that all people are treated with dignity and respect without regard for a person's gender, ethnicity, race, religion, color, or sexual orientation. Your police department handles criminal investigations, traffic enforcement, traffic enforcement and the school resource functions. The code enforcement officer handles city code violations as well as dog control. In addition to the police chief, current staffing consists of 1 lieutenant, 3 sergeants, 1 detective, and 9 patrol officers, including the canine officer and school resource officer. We have right now we have 3 vacant police officer positions. The office support staff consists of 1 executive assistant, 1 record specialist, and 1 part-time evidence technician. There's currently 1 reserve officer who serves a variety of support functions. Patrol officers are on duty 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. As you can see through some of the noteworthy items that we've already achieved with our body worn cameras, and as you're well aware, because I spoke of this before, our benchmark analytics has served us to be very, very 21st century. We're now inputting all our data, and we have access to the analytics that we put in, whether it's use of force, whether it's complaints, whether it's our training functions, field training, et cetera. So, and we're going to start leveraging that even more. We've also had to replace some of our fleet and then make sure that our officers are recognized appropriately through award ceremonies. The current budget, there's some focuses for the current budget that is on our wellness program. And I don't want to read what's in front of you, but we will be researching a lot of state-of-the-art stuff to make sure that, 1, it fits Gladstone, that it's the right fit for Gladstone, right size, that benefits our officers. Some of you are familiar with some of the significant calls we've gone on that have significant emotional events on officers. So we want to make sure those are taken care of, and we're well supported through peer support. And then advancing Gladstone is our behavioral health. what is it, Wednesday. So in 2 days, we sit on interview panels for the second interview for a behavioral health specialist through the county, which is extremely nice. It's going to be very helpful. And we've already partnered with Love One and built that relationship very strong. So, and we already have a homeless liaison assigned to Gladstone. Alicia, and she's working out of our office. She rides with people and she has her own office, but she's able to come and go. So that's been very successful. And of course, our priorities are always going to be traffic enforcement, community engagement, family violence, and then wellness. We're adding on to that. So we've also put a priority on technology. Benchmark analytics is one of those priorities. Also technology with regards to equipment we use and how we use it. You can go from body worn camera to upgraded taser programs that you heard about when we took it to council to upgrade our tasers for more efficiency and effectiveness when forced to use them, and other types of technology that we're looking at. And one of it is to even advance more the benchmark analytics on another module to help us with the wellness stuff. So, and we're already looking into that. We've already made some advancements on that. And that program is already purchased, so it's at no cost. We're just have to develop the modules, and that takes time. So, but overall, essentially, that's what we're looking at. We're geared towards meeting council goals with regards to public safety and then building on that internally. But I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Could you say again how many openings there were, and then where are those openings?
Yeah, so we have 3 patrol officer openings right now. The good, nice
Seems
part.
like a lot.
For Gladstone, it's equivalent to, yes, there's a few, but we're doing very well. We're handling it very well, and we're already in the process of looking at backgrounds. We're very selective on who we bring on.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll tell you, we've watched the last 6. We've eliminated the last 6 that have applied because they just weren't a good fit, or something's in the background that I don't feel comfortable with. And so we're just not going to bring them on. We'll run short before we do that.
Thank you. I've always been impressed with your staff.
Thank you. And it will be a lot easier once we get those 3 people.
Oh, I can't. Well, when I heard you say 3, I'm just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Who's
My
talking?
question is, there's no decrease in services though, right?
No, there's
We're
no,
still maintaining the.
we're still maintaining the same level of services. We're just doing it on overtime now. We're forced to do some on overtime to fill shifts.
Josh Smith.
I have a
has
question. This is Josh on Zoom.
Hi, Josh, go ahead. We can hear you.
Thank you. I've been having some phone connectivity issues. Do you suspect, Chief, that these are sustained issues of staffing that you suspect will happen for the next little while, or is this like a one-off issue?
No, I think police departments are always going to be hiring, Josh. I think that there's always going to be a transition. I can say that tomorrow will be 6 years for me being here. It's amazing, 6 years, but we've lost now only 3 officers in 6 years to another agency for larger money. Everybody is left for other reasons, either retirement or for different reasons, but got out of the business. So I think there's always going to be a hiring factor. I don't think that'll ever change. It's just, it's difficult finding people. Every agency's feeling the same pain we are.
It's a good question, Josh. You know, when we had our city council retreat, employee retention is one of the things that we always talk about, and the difficulty that sometimes a small city has. You invest in someone, get them on board, and then they, find greener pastures somewhere else. Yep. And cities of all size face that issue. Some people like kind of a starting job, and then they move on to when they feel settled. And to have the record that you describe of really able to retain people, except for retirements and those kinds of things, is a credit to the strength of our department and your leadership.
Well, thank you. I know that, obviously I have a lot of conversations with our city administrator, and I think we come from the same philosophy is, train people to leave, prepare them to be extremely successful, but create an environment where they want to stay. And I stole that from Virgin Air. So, but I've tried to live that since I've been here.
Counselor Garlington has a question as well.
Counselor Garlington.
My question is with the 3 vacant positions, do you have do you generally, are you trying to find people that are ready to go, or are you open to putting people through academies and bringing them up through the ranks?
Yeah, so a little bit, I can talk about my philosophy with regards to recruitment and retention a little bit. So yes, we're open to laterals and we're open to brand new recruits. If you fit, great. If you don't, then you don't, so to speak. But we do have 3 right now in background, and so far so good, but you never know. You know, things can pop up, you know, everybody has a history and everybody has a past, so, and we're gonna find it. But if you fit, that's awesome, but ideally, you take laterals. You know, right now, if you're down 3, you take laterals because they're kind of plug and play. They're already been through the academy, so your training time is reduced. But if you don't get those, then you push it through the academy and you dig in and you go through that grind itself. Right now, we're fortunate to at least have 1 lateral in background and 2 recruits. So we'll see how that plays out. That could change.
So we steal from other cities.
I don't go out and recruit.
You're right. We put the word out. And
Yes,
sometimes
yeah.
that's
So
what
I hope that answered your question.
It did. I have one more very small one. What does the, your short 3 people, does that mean that you've got police officers heavily on overtime? And what impact would that have on your budget?
Yes, it's obviously going to have an impact on my overtime budget. And Kathy can attest to that. But what we try and do the minimum amounts of overtime. So contractual, there's callbacks where 3 hours a minimum. So if you call somebody back, it's a 3-hour minimum. So we want to work those. So instead of hiring somebody for a full shift, our shifts are staggered so that maybe we only bring somebody in for 4 hours. So instead of paying them a 10-hour overtime shift, we pay them, they sit in for 4 hours and then go home because of their officer coming in, and we have our minimum staffing. So that's the way that works. And we'll backfill with the sergeant. So we made that change in 2019 right away.
Thank you for
Councilor
that.
Huckabee, you had your light on. Did you have a question?
Thank you. Actually, I just want to give gratitude. Thank you so much for really screening people out if they're not good culture fits, or whatever the reason may be. But staff at the Civic Center have done a really good job of building a culture of positivity here.
Mhm.
And so I appreciate you focusing on that also.
Yep. Thank you.
Councilor Labonte.
And would you say there, yes, overtime, is expensive, but overall there's savings in that we've not having those 3 positions filled? Where's the balance between the overtime and those?
You know, I am a lot of things and I am not a finance director, so.
I figured it was.
That is way outside my lane. She lets me know though.
We watch it quite closely, and fortunately, this last biennium, we did not have a lot of long-term vacancies, so it was really refreshing as far as being able to keep the overtime more within budget, et cetera. We just have to watch it, and when it starts to get out of balance in one direction or another, then John is very good about figuring out what we're going to do, or we look at his budget overall and see where else we may need to move money from. But as far as having to increase his overall budget, no, we have not had to do that.
And I guess my question would be that in not having those 3 positions filled, the difference between the overtime and those vacant positions, I'd imagine is a plus to the budget overall.
Not necessarily. It depends on how long it goes.
I see.
And who is filling those positions also as far as overtime goes. Is it our more senior officers that are paid at a higher rate, or are they more junior officers? There's a lot of factors that can go into that, needless to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And ideally you limit the overtime because you want your officers to get rest and go home and have a life and have families and everything else. So, and be refreshed when they come back to work.
So how big is the force?
We have 20.5 personnel. We're authorized 20.5.
Does that include the 3?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
openings. So you have 17.
Yes.
Okay, that's a lot to keep this. They're busy.
We're busy, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, thank you. I think this discussion helps us see why personnel services are generally one of the, highest cost items in our expenditure categories. And you gave us some good information on understanding the interplay of retention, recruitment, overtime, meeting the needs of the department. So thank you both for helping to manage that.
You bet. Thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you, Chief.
Can I request a 5-minute recess?
Yes, we're about an hour in, so let's take a 5-minute recess and we'll come back for the next department area. All right, I think we can resume the recording. We'll be on pause there for. Oh, okay. All right. Hope nobody said anything over the microphone. Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to take on the fire and emergency services. And as I alluded to in the budget message, we currently contract for fire services with Clackamas Fire. We have done so since 2022. It's been a great partnership, and we are at the place where we are talking about referring a ballot measure to the voters to decide if they want to annex into the fire district. So what that essentially would mean is that right now, if you look at the budget, we're taking all the money that we get from the fire levy, which is 31 cents per thousand, and it equates to about $1.75 per thousand from the general fund. So we have about $2.06 per thousand that we are paying for fire and emergency medical services. That is what the proposed budget equates to. So all of that goes to Clackamas Fire. If we have a successful annexation in November, then in July of 2026, we will no longer collect that money. There will be a new line item on the property tax statements, and that money will go directly to Clackamas Fire. We got a sweet deal with Clackamas Fire when we negotiated this. We're paying $2.06 per thousand. All the other residents in the Clackamas Fire District pay $2.40 per thousand. Keep in mind, though, that we also transferred the equity in our brand new fire engine, which was worth about $1 million, to Clackamas Fire to help equalize that. So that is the process that the council is going through. Every dollar we have for fire services goes to Clackamas Fire. Is there anything else, Kathy, that I didn't cover on that one?
No, the only thing I would possibly add to that is, as Jackie said, the portion that is general fund property tax of the $1.70, $4.75 roughly, we would not be collecting that in our base rate, but we do not lose it out of our base rate. So if there was ever a reason to increase and collect those funds back, it would be available to the city. So that is one thing that can be a bit of a anomaly with property tax calculations here within the state of Oregon.
And just to help people, if you're not familiar with this, back in 1997, cities and jurisdictions had permanent tax rates established, and ours was established. It's been the same all those years. We can't increase it. We can't vote as a council to increase it. Councils used to, that's how they used to budget. If you go back old minutes of city council meetings, they figure out what their budget needed. How much do we need to raise the property tax to generate that much income? So the rates went up by a little bit each year. But the state said, no, we want the rates to be steady. We want the growth in assessed value to be slow and steady, so that everything was much more predictable, and which really makes it a lot easier to plan a budget when things are more consistent like that. But you don't want to reduce your tax rate and not be able to increase it when you need to. So that's the strategy behind not collecting it, but preserving,
Yes.
that amount as our
The
maximum.
marker more or less within the base rate.
Right.
Yes, yeah.
Any questions about the fire and emergency services part of the budget?
I do have a question. If the city owns the building, how is that going to work if we do have a successful annexation, would we rent out that space to Clackamas County Fire?
Well, the city would retain ownership of the building, and traditionally what has happened in other cities such as Milwaukee and Oregon City, they went through the same process when they would contract for services first. We would probably lease them the building for $1 a year and do like a 99-year lease agreement. I think one of the important factors in this being a successful annexation is we almost want to guarantee that they will stay on Portland Avenue. And so they have promised us that they have no intentions of leaving that site, but typically that's what we do. It's what we do with the library land right now is we lease the property to Clackamas County for $1 per year.
Okay.
If I may.
Yes.
Ask on, and on that, so that $1 a year lease, and there's the lease agreement. Let's say they do move locations to McLaughlin or whatever 6 years from now, which is possible. What happens to the lease of the old? Does that terminate the lease on the old? And then
Yeah.
we just
The city attorney would put termination language in the lease agreement, but the city will always retain ownership of the property in the building. So I don't like talking about that because I know it's not going to happen. But if it did, then the city council could make a policy decision on what they would want to do with that property in the building.
So it wouldn't just be theirs to use.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Next item. I think, Silas, you're back.
Hello again. Next on the general fund is the Parks and Recreation Department expenditures. So 13 picturesque parks within Gladstone, and we maintain 11 of them, ensuring that they are welcoming spaces for all. Noteworthy items from the last biennium: we were able to replace the playground equipment at Meldon Bar Park, completed a revitalization of Robin Hood Park, including playground improvements, and started an initial design phase underway for the paved loop trail, which is still going on, and installed new park amenities in several of our parks. For the upcoming biennium, the budget highlights are going to be constructing the paved loop trail at the nature park, as well as construction of the bathroom and picnic shelter at the nature park, and then revitalization improvement of playground equipment at Nick Shannon Park. All three of those are council goals. So we're working on those and looking forward to them in the next biennium. As far as line items, again, contractual and professional services for parks. Some of the items there, we're talking about a service called Ventec that takes care of the Meldon Bar fee station when we need tech support. General Tree is a company we use that maintains the maples and the powwow tree. Then there's things like portable units for porta potties. We contract out with Honey Bucket Services. Any sort of plantings or replantings, or if we need to do some sort of a large scale herbicide application, we'll contract that out. And then there's occupational health issues that we deal with, and we'll usually split that within the 6 departments. O&M costs out of that line item, we're talking about things like the janitorial supplies. I mentioned that in facilities. It's a split between facilities and parks. We're taking care of things like the most important doggy waste bags that we need to get out there, make sure people are using, as well as just different fertilizers for our sports fields and things like that. Irrigation repairs, chalk and the turfus that we buy for the baseball, softball fields comes out of that line item, as well as graffiti cleaning supplies, dumping and hauling garbage fees, things like that. And we're really excited about, like I said, the capital improvement projects, which is within the capital outlay. Correct me if I'm wrong, Kathy, but those are grant funded for the loop trail and the restroom at Nature Park.
Yes, the Metro and the Nature Park Loop Trail are both grant funded. Metro is 100% grant funded, and the Nature Park Loop Trail is 50% funded, 50% match.
Right. So that money's captured, and that's a good thing, and we'll be using that soon. Like I said, we've already started the design for the loop trail. We've got kind of a rough survey done and a good idea where that's going to go. And another aspect is the Nick Shannon playground improvements, which we're looking forward to. And I believe we've got a survey out right now to the public for ideas, and we're moving towards that as well. So any questions? Yes.
Do you think the dumping, hauling, and garbage line item is large enough?
It is,
Okay.
because we have an agreement with our lease company. Jackie can speak to that, where we have that service provided for us.
What about, emergency, do we have like camp cleanup or?
Yes, we use a outfit called RID. I think that's through the county or Metro.
Metro.
Thank you, Jackie. And so we would usually take that out of either probably contracted services, professional services, or the operational maintenance potentially.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I was wondering how many positions usually does the part-time seasonal encompass?
Right. So we're doing our best to try to get 5 right now. We currently, in fact, today was the first day for our first seasonal, but it's a 6-month stint, 40 hours a week for 6 months. And our goal is to try to get some students possibly that can maybe work just the summer months. So I think I interviewed 10 and we made offers to 5 right now. And 2 of those would be a student where they're potentially just working. And our hope is that we can have maybe 2 of them here over the weekends to help with some of the services, but we're doing our best. But recruitment seems like the last couple of years has been a little difficult, but more and more people seem to be applying. So yeah, 6 is what we have budgeted. Anything else? Okay, I'll be back. Thanks.
Now, Michelle Prusso from the Community Center will be sharing information with you.
Thank you for having me. The community center expenditures go into providing essential programs and services that support all the residents of all ages. We not only enhance the community well-being, but we also offer cultural programs, engagement, lifelong learning. But we're also combating senior isolation and offering programming resources for our most vulnerable members of society. So the community center allocates a lot of its budget towards facility maintenance, staffing, and a variety of programs. So a lot of that goes into vital services for the community. Some of our noteworthy items, we rebranded into the Gladstone Community Center instead of a senior center. We have new logo, updated branding, and we updated the adventure van with our logo. So we increased staffing for a full-time nutrition and transportation role. It was part-time and that position went to full-time. And we've boosted revenues quite a bit through our rental rates, meals and transportation donations. We recontracted with our foot care nurse to do 10%. So that boosted actually the rental for foot care that we offer. And we also boosted by adding programming like our markets. So we also expanded programs and events. Music on the Greens, our seasonal markets. We collaborate with Gladstone School District, and we do multicultural, intergenerational programming. We have specialty classes, and we do recreational, educational, and cultural opportunities as much as possible. Some of the budget highlights moving forward is we'd like to get a part-time nutrition caterer. We also would like to start new community programming. So that would look like different classes that we would have at the community center, including children's art classes, maybe creative writing, different things that we could do at the center, which would also boost our revenue as well. We would like to expand our special events, so more diverse cultural, recreational, and social experiences for the community. And we would like to focus on facility improvement, so looking for grants. Any questions?
Michelle, you talk about some of the community programs. They're not all at the community center itself, like the concerts in the park are offsite.
Correct.
But your department is still overseeing and planning and arranging for those events.
Absolutely. Yep. We love those. Right now we're getting ready for the 3rd year of Music on the Greens, which it's come quite a ways from our side yard. Moved down to Meltron Bar. So yeah. And
Max
then,
Patterson.
Yep. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm projecting that someday it'll.
Oh,
be at
yes.
Meltron
Yeah.
Bar.
No, it'll be like Woodstock now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just putting that out there. Yes, Max Patterson. Thank you.
All right.
I have a question too.
Okay. Well, let's see. Let me get Counselor Blaug first, and then Counselor Garlington, and then Counselor Mitchell.
Can you let us know what kind of multicultural events you were planning for this year? And is that an expansion from last year?
Yes. So each month we showcase, like this month we're doing mental health awareness, but each month we try to dive into something that's happening globally for that month. Whether that's coming up in June, we are going to have the Oregon Black Pioneers. We are going to focus on York of Lewis and Clark, since that's in our area. We're going to have a special presentation. We paid them to come into the center and do a special presentation for the community. We are there's so many things that we're doing. The Minidoka Swing Band, which is, I don't know if any of you guys have heard of them, but we'll be putting that together through the Gladstone Seniors Foundation as well, and the high school. And that should be a really big event in October, where Japanese internment camp members will come through and display through song and music their story. Stuff like that. Did that answer your question?
Yes, thank you very much.
Yep.
That looks very exciting.
Proceeding alphabetically, Counselor Garlington.
My question was about your vehicle maintenance and vehicles and equipment. I just wonder, given that some of the other departments have a bank account, so to speak, that they are saving for their next vehicle, and then $6,000 for maintenance and repairs. If you lost a transmission, that doesn't hardly pay for it. So can somebody explain to me where that would come from if that should happen?
So we're contracted through Clackamas County through Ride Connection for our big bus. And so we get dollars, I believe $11,000 to help with maintenance and repair on our big bus. And everything else, we don't anticipate having any of those big repairs. We drive our Jeep very little. That's, 10 miles a month type of driving. And then our adventure van, same, it goes on once a week trips, if that. So I'm trying not to put that out there. Hopefully there's nothing too big. But a lot of those costs are our fuel costs for our adventure trips, and then our transportation for the grocery store and medical appointments. So, and how that works is we're just driving mostly around Gladstone. So we don't put a lot of wear and tear on our vehicles. Did that answer your question, Mindy?
Well, it does. I just still think that you I just don't think it's enough money, quite frankly. I think there should be some money there. If something should happen to one of the vehicles and it had to be replaced, there's still a down payment cost and that sort of thing. And I just don't think there's enough there for that. unavoidable expense should it happen. And if you do, great. And if you don't, I understand that somehow it will probably be funded.
All right, thank you. And Counselor Mitchell, you had another question?
Just out of curiosity, if you're opening up possibly new community classes, do you foresee to target the community? Do you see them happening possibly in the evenings and weekends as well, or just during the daytime?
Absolutely. That's one of our priorities, is to offer evening classes moving forward. So we're hoping in September that we're going to not only have our classes that we were currently having, which is the Zumba, the Tai Chi, and we're adding Drums Alive for day programs. But in the evening, we'd like to add a children's art class after school till 5, and then also maybe a creative writing. And our idea is to hopefully find a bilingual English teacher so that we can offer not only the creative writing to our English, but our Spanish speaking community members. So we're actually really looking forward to getting those spots filled for that. So, and those will be after work programs.
All right, thank you. You gave us a good picture of the programming you're intending to bring about.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, on to the library, and I hope all of you have been to our brand new site. It's beautiful inside. And again, we contract for services with Clackamas County. When we did our agreement with Clackamas County for them to build this building, we have an annual contribution of $200,000. It is adjusted for assessed value increases. So that is the one line item that you see in the library budget. It all goes directly to Clackamas County.
And to clarify too, even though taxpayers in the city of Gladstone pay the library district tax on their property tax statements, because we do not operate the library fully ourselves as a library city, as other cities do, the tax revenue raised within the city of Gladstone goes directly to the county. And then a portion of the tax revenue from the unincorporated area that of the entire county, in proportion to the population that we serve, goes to the county as well to help fund this branch of the Clackamas County Library.
Okay, then we will move on to Public Works.
Welcome back, Silas.
Thank you. Okay, so Public Works, we'll start with streets. We have just over 37 centerline miles of roadways, sidewalks, pathways that we do our best to take care of for all the people that are traveling around throughout our city. In the last biennium, some noteworthy items, projects completed were the Webster Caisson Crossing Project. Also completed an annual slurry seal and crack seal per the pavement management program. Right-of-way management, commercial and private development and plan reviews. Also successfully completed major paving projects across both years of the biennium budget and established a citywide pavement condition index referred to as PCI of 71, along with some comprehensive financial plans to fund the roadway improvements. For the next biennium, we're going to continue on with annual slurry seal and crack sealing to try to keep up on that PCI of 71 for our existing roads, as well as, like I said, the expansion of that is successfully complete large-scale paving projects that we recognize within through studies across both years of the biennium budget, and then continue on with right-of-way management of commercial and private development plan reviews. As far as line items for our budget, contractual and professional services, we're paying for things like engineering services, also the software costs for Street Saver, which is the PCI software that we use. some traffic striping, and O&M is a big one. And that's typically because we have that slurry seal project. Those projects each year are estimated at about $250,000. We contract out with a company that's, we work with Hillsborough, and Hillsborough, the city of Hillsborough, manages the contract, and we, so to speak, tag on to that contract to get that company to come in and do multiple cities within the region. Also in our O&M, we'll take care of the crack sealing and any sort of asphalt patching, as well as purchases of rock and AC, cones and barricades, and just different traffic management and maintenance of street lights. We have IGAs with Clackamas County to take care of the street lights that we have within the city of Gladstone. And like I said, the capital improvement projects will be those large scale paving projects. We're estimating those to be about $450,000 per year. And then the striping and street markings, they'll be about $150,000 per year. Any questions? Yes.
Mayor, please. I was curious here, the see for 30,000, the street sign maintenance. Can you kind of talk me through what that looks like and why that expense would be so high?
So a lot of the street sign maintenance is a replacement, a full replacement to make a breakaway style. We've been going through and recognizing different zones, and it's sort of a big cost. So I think that's a continuation of trying to get through the majority of the city. There's still some signs that have the traditional wood 4x4 posts. So we're changing them out to be a steel that's designed to completely snap off and be a lot more functional. So I think that's why there's some costs there. Gladstone's been working through different zones over the past biennium, but they're continuing on. There's still some hanging out there, so to speak, that we need to pick up. So.
And for the traffic signal maintenance, I'd imagine a lot of that gets contracted out, or
all of it does. Yes. Yeah. We contracted with the Clackamas County. So it's a cost, but when we need them, they're pretty, well, they're easy to get a hold of, and they're responsive as well. So.
And does that go for the school zone flashing signs?
All but one.
I've heard some funny stories about that.
Yeah, all but one, because the most recent that we replaced, unfortunately, didn't meet Clackamas County spec, and they're not able to work on it. So yeah, but we're working through that. We're trying to meet those challenges, and we're working through it. So.
Great, thank you.
Yep. Anything else? If not, I'll move on to the next section, which I believe is wastewater. So within Gladstone, there are 3 pump stations and nearly 35 miles of local sewer pipelines. They flow to 2 different sewer districts, that being West and Oak Lodge Water Services. For the last biennium, noteworthy projects, items, they were able to complete construction of phase 1 and 2 of the inflow and infiltration project, or INI, satisfying the MAO with DEQ. They also completed line cleaning of over 46,000 feet, which is our goal per year. That's where we use our vac truck to go in and actually jet the lines, break up any debris in there, and make sure that they're flowing well. That's per our maintenance standards. Right-of-way management for commercial and private development and plan reviews. You'll hear that. That's common with all the utilities. Finalize an intergovernmental agreement with Oak Lodge Water District, and also completed the CIPP project for correcting deficiencies within the Gladstone Oak Lodge wastewater system per the IGA. For the next biennium, we're going to continue on with design and complete of yearly inflow and infiltration repairs, as well as continue on with the cleaning of over 46,000 or more feet per year, and continue advancing capital improvement projects with Oak Lodge service area, as well as that right-of-way management. Looking at the budget, again, you'll see there's some big line items under materials and services, contractual and professional. Again, we're going to be paying for the engineering services that we need There's an 82nd pump station maintenance that's going to be happening soon. That's going to be performed by Wes, but we'll be paying for services for that. They'll be managing the whole project. And that's kind of a crucial pump station. It's a force main that takes the wastewater and gets it across basically 205 to get over to the West treatment plant. We're looking at smart meters that we need for flow levels to monitor any sort of flows so it doesn't get into the Clackamas River. Those are very important. As well as hawk flow meters. That's just a style of flow meter. Various consortium memberships we're paying for. And then out of this, we pay for a third of the one on-call, or excuse me, one call locates. It's the locate service 811 that we have to pay for to ensure that the tickets are sent to us so that we can do our markings per state law. O&M, we're paying for things like flagging services, the TVing services that we need to do inspection, and then other repair bands and pipe purchases, manholes, things like that, as well as rock and materials. Fleet expenses, Vactor needs quite a bit of service every once in a while, and it can be rather expensive, as well as backhoe services, crane maintenance on the service trucks and certifications, as well as our CCTV truck and camera that needs a lot of routine maintenance. So the capital improvement projects, as I said, we're going to be focusing on the Oak Lodge Water District sanitary sewer repairs. It's a multi-year project per our IGA, and our engineer estimates for 2026 is about $150,000 worth of repairs, and 2027 is about $175,000 worth of repairs. And then the inflow and infiltration and rehab projects, we've been estimating about $400,000 a year for the foreseeable future. And then annual CIPP projects will be spending about $250,000 a year.
And what is CIPP?
CIPP is cured in place pipe. So it's a method where the sewer can be, they plug it and then they'll put a liner in, steam it so that it cures in place, and it basically coats the pipe. It's a pretty amazing process, and it basically extends the life of the pipe by X amount of years, a lot of years actually. So Gladstone, it's been very successful. We're just finishing up right now a flow study to see how much improvement we made with the CIPP that we've done thus far. So any questions?
Do we have any more wood pipes in the city?
I don't know if we have wood pipe. I do know that we have clay tile. I'm not sure about wood pipe. I don't think so. Not wastewater pipes. And I don't think we have any wood water pipes either, but you never know. Yep.
Yeah, aside from property taxes, I think that utility rates is the one thing the public is most sensitive to, and everybody knows how much they've paid. Nobody seems to know how much we've spent. So this is good that we do this budget year each time, and we can put large price tags on these large capital improvement projects. We don't do them, constantly. We have to build up the funds in order to put them out for a bid and get them accomplished. But it's always good to kind of have a number in your head as to how much we spent on something so that people can say, you raised our rates, but you're not doing anything. We could say, oh yeah, you don't see it, but it's down there and we've done it. And, it's ironic. You try to be as unobtrusive as possible to the community in doing these projects. Like we had Braun Construction here for the I&I. And they got around to different areas and get things done. And all of a sudden they're finished.
Yeah.
And, but it didn't disrupt very much of the community. And so to fly under the radar like that and get things accomplished in a positive way is very, very good for our program.
Yeah. And with wastewater and stormwater, that's a success. You can do that and not have to do a big open trench. Unfortunately, water, it's not so easy. So. And speaking of that, if there's no other questions, I'll move on to the next.
Counselor Garlington has a question.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, Counselor Garlington.
So between your, I know that everybody in your department wears many hats. I appreciate the overall work that your people need to do in order to to be knowledgeable about the different avenues that they cross in their daily work. You have 19.1 FTEs across the 5 different areas. Do you have any reason to believe that that would need to be increased in the next 2 years?
I don't think so, not in the next 2 years. I don't see a need for it to be increased in the next 2 years, but after that, might need to talk about it.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Thank you.
Except for the FTE and parks that we're adding
Correct.
this budget.
Correct.
Yes.
So water. Again, the water system includes 3 storage reservoirs, 2 pump stations, and nearly 40 miles of pipeline. Gladstone is a partner and owner in the North Clackamas County Water Commission and a member of the Clackamas River Water Providers, which is a coalition of municipal water suppliers who source their drinking water from the Clackamas River. Noteworthy items for the last biennium, we performed fire hydrant flushing and maintenance on approximately 64 hydrants, exercised and maintained approximately 205 distribution valves, responded to water leaks, met our Oregon Health and Authority requirements, and performed minimal system improvements. Initial design phase underway for the Sherwood Forest neighborhood AC pipe replacement project. And then for 2025-2027 budget highlights, we're starting that backbone phase of the Sherwood Forest neighborhood AC pipe replacement. Again, that's a council goal. We're continuing to perform adopted maintenance standards. We're going to perform our needed water reservoir cleaning, where we contract out to divers to go in and do inspection and cleaning. And we're going to move forward with implementing a SCADA system. SCADA is supervisory control and data acquisition. It basically gives you the ability to monitor and have some sort of control remotely for your reservoirs. So control would be filling them and being able to stop the flow if we need to, and monitoring more aspects of the reservoirs themselves. Right now, we have a fairly old system that's just an auto dialer that when things happen, it'll give us a call to alert us. But with SCADA, you'll be able to look at it and have a better sense of what's going on. And the sky's the limit. You can add instrumentation to it for testing the water, for monitoring it, for things like chlorine and turbidity and alarms. There's a lot that you can do with it. So that would be a big capital outlay. Part of the capital outlay, I shouldn't say big, but part of the capital outlay, we're anticipating about $300,000 for a multi-year project. The Sherwood Forest water system upgrade would be an 8-inch backbone. Again, this is in the capital outlay. Engineer's estimate is about a little over $1 million, I think, is what I saw, but we'll see. It's in design right now. But again, it's a council goal and we're working towards it. I'd like to start a AC water line replacement of trying to do 1% of it a year. So we're going to try to spend $100,000 on that, and some other water main replacement projects that we'll recognize throughout the city. We can possibly spend $250,000 or $250,000 on that, as well as some water service replacement. AMI is something we've been talking about. I think there's room for strategic upgrades of hard to read meters right now. So we're going to put about $75,000 towards that, as well as some hydrant maintenance replacement, $75,000. From line items, contractual and professional services for water. Again, it's engineering services. It's fees for the Oregon Health Authority. It's the one call locate tickets that we'd be paying out of. And then, as I mentioned, the reservoir cleaning. Operation and maintenance, we're paying for things like pipe repair bands for the pipes, water meters as they need to be replaced, as well as the meter boxes and materials needed for backfilling aggregate rock, drain rock for around hydrants. and then flaggers. And then, as I mentioned, the three big capital improvements would be the Sherwood Forest water system upgrades, the SCADA system, and then trying to get at least 1%, start on that 1% replacement of our AC pipe. I believe out of the 40 miles, we have about 19 miles of that, I think, of the AC pipe. So questions?
If I just may, one item here, like to understand a little more about the water test, the laboratory water test.
Yep.
I see that seems to be, what's the expense there?
So the expense there would be our routine sampling that we have to take. We take samples, I believe it's every week. 8. No, I don't know the total number, but we have to do routine back T samples. Apologize for that. It's escaping me right now. Then it would be things like lead and copper sampling. It would be things like disinfection byproduct sampling. Anything that we have to do required by the Oregon Health Authority, we're going to rely on that contract with the lab because we don't have a lab. So we would be pulling the samples, or we may be engaging with a third party to pull the samples for us and then paying for those lab services to perform the lab work and report to the state.
And are those just kind of random samples, or is it specific to this?
It's specific.
This problem, so let's check it out.
Yeah, no, the routine are very specific, meaning it's a plan that we've already had approved by the Oregon Health Authority, and it's strategically throughout the city at different points to try to get a full representation of the city. And you're alternating from sites every 2 weeks, as well as the disinfection byproducts. There's 4 sites within the city that are strategic throughout all corners of the city, more or less, that the Oregon Health Authority approved that plan years ago to use those. The same with lead and copper. That's a partnership that we have where we have homes that we're getting that water from. But it's anything that's regulated by the EPA and the Oregon Health Authority that they're requiring us to sample for. We be using that money out of that line item for those things. So, yep. As well as specials for construction or any sort of item that we need. A special sample is something like we do construction where we shut a main down and then we charge it back up. We always do a special sample to make sure that everything went well with our repairs. Yep. Anything else?
Silas, with regard to the AC, and that's asbestos concrete.
Correct.
We usually think of the flat part of Gladstone as old Gladstone and anything up on the ridge as new Gladstone. But I know a lot of those new Gladstone homes were built in the 70s or 80s, which to me doesn't seem like very long ago, but it's 50, 60 years ago.
Yeah.
Where are these AC pipes? Where do they tend to be located? Is that old technology that wasn't used in newer neighborhoods, or are they spread throughout? And when we get around to doing them, are we going to impact the lives of people in certain parts of the city more than others?
They're spread throughout Gladstone from what I can tell. The Sherwood Heights is all AC pipe. And so, like you said, believe that neighborhood is probably late 60s, early 70s. It's fairly common in the area. There's smaller districts where the entire district was made of that. So I think, it's going to affect basically the whole city at some point is the way I see it right now, because it's throughout the whole city. It might just be a street, but it's throughout the whole city.
But you're prioritizing the replacement of that.
We're prioritizing
a little bit at a time.
Yeah, I think we would probably look at it through an age perspective. So the oldest first, and then try to be strategic about it to make it as fair as possible. Yeah, throughout the city.
Thank you.
Yep.
And just for my own, why do we replace those? I mean, asbestos is bad, but does it get into the water? Does it?
No, it doesn't get into the water. It's very fragile. So once it starts breaking, it breaks. For lack of a better term, it's cast iron will crack, and you'll either get a longitudinal crack or you'll get a circumferential crack. OD steel or steel pipe will get a pinhole, and it just kind of is a pinhole. Ductile iron will kind of blow out a pocket. So I've seen it where it was an inch, and I've seen it where it was almost a 4-inch Well, and I've seen cast iron shear where it shears vertically. So the more you can replace before you get that quote unquote catastrophic failure, the better off the city's going to be, because when that happens in this zone, it might affect another part of the city because of pressures and things. So I just think it's past its usable life. And so, yeah.
Good question.
Yeah.
I learned something.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
We'll move on to stormwater. So again, there's about 30 miles of city-owned piping. There's over 1,100 catch basins that we inspect every year, and there's 299 manholes. We're operating under a phase 1 NPDES MS4 permit through DEQ. The city is required to implement stormwater management strategies designed to reduce pollutants discharged from the stormwater system. Noteworthy items: we completed the Evergreen Stormline project, completed construction on phase 1 and 2 of the inflow and infiltration project, satisfying the MAO with DEQ again, performed annual stormline maintenance standards, provided the annual curbside leaf pickup program to the residents of Gladstone, implemented changes per the NPDES permit, implemented and managed a monthly street sweeping schedule, and then, of course, right-of-way management for development and plan reviews. For the next biennium, system repairs in accordance with the city's permit requirements will strive for, continue to perform and manage the annual stormline maintenance standards, as well as the inspection of our catch basins, design and complete yearly inflow and infiltration repairs, and then oversee that NPDES and MS4 permit, ensuring compliance regulatory requirements. And then also continuing on with that right-of-way private development and plan review. Again, line items, contractual professional, engineering services would come out of that. The one call locate tickets. We contract out with Brown and Caldwell to help us with our language on that NPDES permit. Advertising agreements with both West CCC, Clackamas River Basin, Clean Rivers, the ACWA, that comes out of that line item. Erosion control with West, and then DEQ permit requirements. O&M, we're paying for things like repairs of our street sweeper. We have to buy a lot of sweep brooms because we go through them. Booms and different materials for illicit discharges, so that if we get notice, we can get out and try to capture that before it makes its way downstream. Flaggers, and also beaver trapping and relocation. That would be something that we would take out of O&M. Capital improvement projects we're looking forward to. This is Trevor Court storm basin upgrades, as well as the Clackamas Boulevard storm improvements. Those are just two projects that we've recognized in-house to try to make some improvements. Any questions on stormwater?
Rose?
I'm just gonna say, I appreciate the beaver trapping. We live up by the wetlands up there. And sometimes they're pretty busy chewing up trees and backing up the water.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Good job, Silas. Thank you.
Silas, you're barely halfway into your first year here, but one thing that's very evident is that you have a strong interest and background in water, and you can answer our questions very effectively. So we appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Okay, then we will be moving on to the police levy fund with John. He'll be back up, and Chief Schmerber.
Greetings again. A little bit about the police levy. It does consist of 17.9% of the police department's total biennial budget. It's really the police communications levy. The levy funds both the community services officer, who administers code violations, code enforcement, school resource officer, the K-9 program, the executive assistant to the chief, along with other services and equipment needs are covered to maintain police levels. So really, some noteworthy items for code enforcement is our parking management system, the technology we talked about earlier. It's another piece that goes in there, and that piece of equipment will be able to also manage additional parking as the city develops, whether it be downtown on Portland Avenue or elsewhere. But right now, it's specifically designed to ensure that we're correct and efficient with our parking enforcement. Along with the K-9 program, everybody's familiar with Nanook, and maybe everybody sees I like to say that I had the idea, but actually Jackie had the idea. I just put it into fruition is, where's Nanook? In our monthly reports and on social media. So our K-9 is aging. And so we'll see how, we know we at least one, maybe 1.5 more years of workable life with Nanook, and we'll see how that goes from that point forward. But we're anticipating maybe having to look for a new K-9 at the same time.
But to be clear, Nanook would retire and just become a house dog, correct?
Yes, he
Okay,
would.
so when you say he has a year left.
Oh, yeah.
I just
I
want to
didn't-
be
I didn't-
clear.
I meant workable life. He's still going to be a loving dog. He's still going to be the same Nanook running around.
He'll collect purrs, right?
Yeah, in doggy treats. Exactly. Exactly. So he'll be with the handler. So retire with the handler.
May I
Yeah, and one other thing the levy does cover too is our communications through CCOM and C800. So it's needed, and that's a contractual service that, for lack of a better word, we're held hostage to. So with regards to payment, but
everyone loves the K-9. Sometimes I struggle to see, and please enlighten me, the benefits to having the K-9. How busy is the dog in actual police work? And because sometimes I wonder how the necessity of having a K-9 with our department.
and that question got asked to me too, and I love the K-9 program. I think one, for community engagement, it's huge. It's a big deal. When I arrived here in 2019, it was on the levy. So the public wants the K-9, and we passed the levy again. And so the K-9 program's on there. It's an expensive program, but the value of the dog outside of the engagement piece, outside of the education piece, outside of the tracking piece is, I'm not sure we'll ever know. It's for the safety piece too. And that K-9 protects its K-9 officer. So, and it's used, and our K-9s are used countywide, just like county K-9s or Oregon City K-9s or any other jurisdiction. If we don't have a K-9 on and we need a K-9, Oregon City comes in and does that, or the sheriff's office comes in. So we reciprocate. So when we're the only K-9, then we'll send that K-9. I don't like it going too far out, but we'll support the other agencies too. So I see a lot of value to it. Some of it's, I'm not sure I can measure it, but unless I see smiles and faces and what it does for the community and brings the community together. And engagement is one of our priorities, no different than code enforcement to our community services officers. So we place a lot of value on our priorities.
And would the dog only be deployed, I assume, with that particular officer?
That's correct. So the dog goes to work with the officer and comes home with the officer and lives with the officer. So.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add that because it is in the levy, we have to maintain the K-9 program at least through 2029. If at that time the city council wanted to reevaluate it before we went out to renew the levy, that would be the appropriate time to do that. Mm-hmm.
Just clarifying, I was reading about the programs, so clarifying The canine does not do search and rescue.
No, the canine is not a search and rescue. It's more of a tracking dog. So an article finds, so if somebody runs from us, we have a missing person. We can put them on a leash, put a muzzle on the dog to ensure that there's no bites. But if a bad guy runs from us, I think Nanook's faster. So. Any other questions? All right. Thank you.
And as you can see, I am a dog lover, so Nanook is featured quite often in our budget. We have more canines, they would all be there. So we are moving on to the Fire and Emergency Services Levy Fund right now, and
We're another hour in. Would people like another break? Are we okay to continue? We'll go ahead.
Okay. I talk fast, so. Yes, they've already been handed out. And I do apologize, we did have one change and replace that we needed to do. You've received the Fire and Emergency Services Levy Fund revenues and expenditures. If you would rip your other one out, please, and replace this. Basically, all the verbiage had been updated, but when it came to the actual table that shows what the proposed budget is, this was the one from the last biennium. This one here does show all of the correct information in there now. All summaries, everything else were correct. It was just this one replacement here that needed to be done. So with the fire levy budget, of course, this again, as with the police levy, was originally approved by the voters in November of '98 and has been renewed every 5 years at the rate of 31 cents per thousand. Currently, it funds 15.5% of the total fire department budget and then is focused towards paying a share of the Clackamas Fire District 1 contract. And that is all it is used for. And then going further in for other funds, we go into the municipal court fund. This is truly an agency fund. We have to budget this based on local budget law, where we have to budget all resources and the requirements. So basically all of the citations that are issued by Chief Schmerber's staff, these all come through into here, and this is all municipal code violations. It comes into here as revenue, and then it gives you the breakdown of what agencies then it will be refunded back out to. And you can see that the city of Gladstone fines and fees are also listed on here. We take in the money, we pay ourselves back.
Counselor Garlington has her hand up.
Councilor Garlington, go ahead.
I was hoping Kathy could give me the total requirement on page 91.
On the total requirement?
Yeah, just that
Yeah.
you said had changed.
Oh, basically, if you look at the page that was there, it was for the previous budget. Councilor Garlington, it shows the headings at the top for 25, let's see what, it showed 23, 24, 24, 25, and 25, 20, 23, 25. That was the previous budget from the last cycle.
So since
just
she's
the
out of
verbiage.
town, she doesn't have this replacement sheet.
Oh.
So which figure were you looking for? The total budget for the years that we're working on?
So is the verbiage at the top changed? I'm sorry,
No.
or the
No, ma'am.
dollar amount changed?
No, yeah, the verbiage at the top has not changed. You were emailed the updated version. If by chance you have that in your email.
That's okay. I'll get
yes.
it later. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, very good. Thank you. Back to the very end of that section is dealing with the Civic Building Capital Fund. It is a closed fund. The only reason this is being shown is for information only. It's for historical purposes. It will disappear next biennium cycle because basically the dollars drop off the cycle then. But for balancing purposes, we do have to show it. And then going into the next section is the capital outlay information. And this is the schedule that we are showing to list out each department as far as what the plans are for 25, 26, 26, 27, the total biennium, showing the type of project it is, whether it be new, replacement, improvements, equipment, et cetera, and then the funding source of that project. And especially for parks and then the public works funds that Silas had listed out for you, will see these things are all itemized and they're listed by fund. So basically you're going to be able to get a little more of information and description on where this money is going to be going to.
And this is where your utility rate money is being spent. And after the budget is adopted, this would be a good educational piece so people understand the continued investment in our infrastructure. Because like you had mentioned earlier, some of these funds, we have to build up enough capital funding to do the projects. And there are some big ticket items that we propose doing in the next couple of years.
And Kathy, do these expenditures also appear within the individual department? Okay, so
Yes.
this is not in addition to, it just consolidates them all on one report.
Exactly, sir. That's what we're trying to do here, is so that you would be able to compare it back to the individual departments and funds. However, if you are curious, I mean, this is, there is so much money involved in capital improvement that we're trying to really highlight exactly, the use of those funds.
So if I may ask, let's say hypothetically, there's a speed reduction, let's say on Oatfield, just throwing it out there. Where would those funds come from? Would that be roads?
For speed reductions such as like.
Under the engineering and signage
Yes.
for all of that.
Yes, it depends on if it is a maintenance item. If it's maintenance, it's going to be back under materials and services line items there. If it is a capital improvement, which at the beginning there, it kind of gives the breakdown on exactly what is considered a capital expenditure. Normally something that costs initially over $5,000 and has a useful life of more than 1 year, and it's a depreciable item, then it would be included here in capital. So it depends upon it. However, there are some maintenance things such as in streets and roads, the slurry seal that's referenced. That is a very expensive item every single year that we have to do it, but it is not depreciable. It's purely a maintenance item. So that would stay over in the materials and services.
But Councilor Labani, if you're talking about putting up new signs because the speed has been reduced, yes, that would come out of O&M, operating and maintenance, from the streets department.
From that street sign maintenance fund that we had there. Yeah. So that is, are there any questions on that section? Okay. So going into the other additional information, we've talked a lot tonight about the operating transfers in and out. And this lays out what we do with those for the 2 fiscal years. Basically, it recovers funds from the administration and the info technology departments that provide benefit to every single department within the city. So based on formula calculation, go ahead and charge a certain amount back to the other departments and are able to transfer that into the general fund then. Very common practice with municipal or governmental accounting. We also have the road revenue distribution with the right-of-ways. When that ordinance was written, there is a certain percentage of it. It was received into the roads department. We charge out 20% we give 20% to the other utility funds to work on their infrastructure within the right of way. And then we receive monies back from the utility funds at 5% back to the road. So it's kind of no, I don't want to say a shuffle, but a movement of cash to accomplish, good, legitimate capital purposes there. Public Works debt service, we have that in there for the payment of the Public Works debt financing that we did. And then also too, at the very bottom is the Urban Renewal Agency. As far as the debt service payment, URA pays over to the general fund for that portion that general fund basically upfronted for the financing on that. The Economic Development Coordinator, overall economic development, we are charging the URA for a portion of that also too. And then we're moving the final of the revenue recovery funds out of the American Rescue Fund monies that we have received. And that will satisfy then the requirements of the ARPA funds as that grant is getting to the expiration date on it. So we have 2 years of that. Going into the summary of FTEs, it gives you just a breakdown. And of course, this is based on the first year of the biennium. And it's also based on the departmental allocations of staff for each of the departments there. We normally have the personnel pay scales in at this point, but because we are in the finalization of contract negotiations, we have not got those added in yet. Debt service, one thing you can be very happy about is that the city is very conservative in going out and financing anything, which is a good deal, especially as rates started to go up. We basically have 1 year left on our water full faith and credit note. The general full faith and credit, there are 2 of those, one being on the financing for the Civic Center, and then the second being for the financing of the Public Works facility. We have always endeavored to make them the shortest length of debt as possible, as affordable. And fortunately, we've been able to balance everything out so far to be able to keep this in good line. And then it goes into information we have been adding, starting to build upon just the general overall information of the budget document itself. If there is a point where we are able to apply for the Government Finance Officer's Distinguished Budget Award, all of this information will be included, plus additional information on top of that. So that is why we have been putting in so much of this. The Gladstone financial policies are in here. So it tells you exactly what we have to run under in order to produce this budget. The policies on budgeting and expenditures, et cetera, et cetera. And then it finishes up with information just as far as a glossary, a general glossary, which again would be a requirement of the Distinguished Budget Award if that comes to fruition. And that is it for here. We've kind of taken you quickly through the rest of this. The point we are at right now would be a motion regarding the budget, the city budget itself. So are there any questions before I get?
Yeah.
ask for the motion?
We've gone over the whole thing now. Now we've completed it with supporting documents. So Councilor Mitchell, let's have your question.
Just to clarify, on 101, we do not have a recreation department?
We do.
Okay.
We do have a recreation department. It is listed on, it might have a Okay, and you're saying on 101, was that in the FTEs?
Yes.
Okay, the reason you don't see a number in that is that the recreation department is only staffed by very short part-time required staffing. And when it is that small amount of hours, we don't qualify that as a FTE. We just put it in as more or less a seasonal type. Yes.
I
Yes,
just wanna
Nina?
thank you guys for putting this together. I know how much work it takes to build this for us, but this looks really good. And this
Thank
is
you.
great. Thank you.
Well, I want to reflect that 2 years ago, when we did this for the first time with, I think, a mostly all new budget committee, it was all the learning process for us, took a lot longer. And now that we're all seasoned veterans here, I am grateful for the input from the citizens who don't see these issues discussed as regularly as we in the council do, yet who bring a different perspective, bring different suggestions, ways that we might be more efficient in our use of funds, ways that we might approach something in a different way. So it's good to get that input. It makes us think about how we go forward and how we serve the city and meet the needs of the citizens who many times pay the taxes, pay the fees, live, enjoy the programs, experience the work of the staff. So that's helpful information. I'm glad to all of you who are here in person and online to help us with that part of it.
May I interject one thing?
Yes.
Please, I'm so sorry. Page 67 does have the recreation expenditures, and it does seem that we rather glossed over that one. If you have any questions on it, it does show what we have forecasted for the next biennium there. And you'll see that is basically the playground aids in there, plus then the summer programs, et cetera. So if there's, I just want you to see that we do have it in there and it is included in the summary totals.
All right, we have some pre-printed motions that if a member of the committee would like to read them, we can put this budget, the city budget, on as a matter for our consideration. Would someone like to make a motion?
Here, Mike, number 6.
Well, I'm going to hand it to, let's see. Oh. All right. There are 3 motions that we need to make to approve the motion of the city's budget. One is to move approval of it for the amount that it is. One is, in order to do this, we need to approve the tax rate. That's a state requirement that we have to do each time. And then also we have the levy rates that need to be incorporated into motions. So I will pass it along. Councilor Levante, would you mind reading those motions or one by one?
You wanted it though.
Oh. There's 3, so we'll pass it around.
Oh, look at that. All right.
Number 1.
Budget approval motion. I move that the Budget Committee of the City of Gladstone approve the biennium budget for the period beginning July 1st, 2025 and ending June 30th, 2027 in the amount of $75,018,580.
All right, we have a motion from Councilor Labonte. Is there a second from a member of the Budget Committee? A second from Rose Fuller. Any further discussion? All right, let's have a roll call vote. Let me check on the screen. Oh, I didn't see anybody raising hands. Haley, are you prepared to do a roll call vote on this?
I can make myself prepared.
Okay.
Let's start with Josh Smith.
I vote to approve.
Counselor Garlington.
Approved.
Counselor Huckabee.
Approved.
Rose Fuller. Counselor Mitchell.
Approved.
Shane O'Brien.
Approved.
Counselor Blaug.
Approved.
Nina Harrington.
Approved.
Counselor Labonte.
Approved.
Mayor Milch.
I approve also. The motion is adopted to approve to approve the budget, which sends it along to the city council for adoption. That's the two phases. We approve and then they adopt. We. All right, we also need a motion on the tax levies. I'm going to send this over to Councilor Blaug.
I move that the Budget Committee of the City of Gladstone approve the property taxes for the 2025-2026 fiscal year at the rate of $4.8174 per thousand of assessed values for the permanent tax levy rate, and in the amount of 0.68 for the police levy and 0.31 for the fire levy local option tax rates.
Now we have two motions there. Should we do them both at one time or each separately? Separately. Okay, so that motion has been made by Councilor Blaug. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Councilor Huckabee seconded the motion. That's with the tax rates and the levy rates. So any further discussion on those? Again, as Administrator Betts said, if the proposed merger with Clackamas Fire District comes to pass, some of this will change in the future. But for now, this is where we are and what we're moving forward with. So Haley, once again.
Josh Smith,
Wow, democracy is incredible. I can't believe I'm voting on this as an unelected, but I approve as described.
Counselor Garlington,
Approved.
Counselor Huckabee,
Approve.
Rose Fuller,
Approved.
Counselor Mitchell,
Approved.
Shane O'Brien,
Approved.
Counselor Blaug,
Approved.
Nina Harrington, Counselor Labonte,
Approve.
Mayor Milch.
Approved. Motion passes unanimously, and I'll let you or pass it along to someone else to do the second.
I guess I'll do it.
Yeah.
It's just this third paragraph here. I move that the Budget Committee of the City of Gladstone approve property taxes for the 2026-27 fiscal year at the rate of $4.8174 per thousand of assessed value for the permanent tax levy rate, and in the amount of $0.68 for the police levy and $0.31 for the fire levy local option tax rates.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, moved by Committee Member O'Brien and seconded by Committee Member Fuller. Any further discussion? All right, once more, roll call vote.
Josh Smith,
Approved.
Counselor Garlington,
Approved.
Counselor Huckabee,
Yes.
Rose Fuller,
Approve.
Counselor Mitchell,
Approved.
Shane O'Brien,
Approved.
Counselor Blaug,
Approved.
Nina Harrington, Counselor Labonte,
Approved.
Mayor Milch.
Approved as well. So that one passes also unanimously. So we have done, we have completed the required votes for the city budget, but that's not all we're here for.
State sharing.
Oh,
Yes, the state shared revenue public hearing. And there are two public hearings that must be held on these revenues in order to receive them, one now and then the other with the adoption of the final budget. These are estimated by the state based on the population formulas, as we covered earlier, the commonly referred to sin taxes. Will receive an estimate of $335,773 in 25-26, $355,025 in FY 26-27. These funds are utilized across the general fund. Roads and streets will receive gas taxes, again estimated by the state in the amount of $970,450 in 25-26 and $964,359 in 26-27. These funds are dedicated to use within the roads and streets for maintenance and improvements of the transportation system within Gladstone. And a motion to approve the state shared revenues will need to be passed by the Budget Committee to move it to the second public hearing. And we can do this in the one motion
Okay.
on this one.
I want to say something else about this one. If you follow the politics of our state legislature, this is one of the years when we have a transportation, a very broad transportation funding package coming before the legislature, which could change the amount of the gasoline tax or registration fees or other things. And this revenue could change substantially depending on what they decide. But we begin with the budget based on the estimates provided to us by the state, and we will amend that budget if need be, if they come up with a whole different system. But good. So this is a requirement. Now, I will open the public hearing for any public comment on this, and to officially meet that requirement. Has anyone come online, Haley, to request to make public comment on any item before us?
I do not believe so.
All right. So seeing no request for public comment, I'm going to close the public hearing. And now I'll do this motion myself. I move that the Budget Committee of the City of Gladstone approve the use of state shared revenues estimated in the amount of $690,798 for the general fund general purposes and $1,934,809 for the road and street fund maintenance and improvements for the biennium budget for the period beginning July 1, 2025 and ending June 30, 2027. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved by Mayor Milch, seconded by Councilor Labonte. Any further discussion? All right, Haley?
Josh Smith,
Approved.
Counselor Garlington,
Approved.
Counselor Huckabee,
Yes.
Rose Fuller,
Approved.
Counselor Mitchell,
Approved.
Shane O'Brien,
Approved.
Counselor Blaug,
Approved.
Nina Harrington, Counselor Labonte,
Approved.
Mayor Milch.
Yes, the motion is passed. So now, are we ready to move on to the urban renewal budget? We are. Okay, thank you. We have a second budget, not as long and detailed, but it is required that we look at it as well. So we'll get some introductory material on this now.
Thank you very much. Okay, so for the Urban Renewal Agency, you have before you the proposed biennium budget for the 2025-2027 year. Again, we have a budget letter.
Yes, I promise to be quick. So to the Honorable Mayor, members of the Gladstone City Council, citizen members of the Gladstone Urban Renewal Agency Budget Committee, and citizens of the City of Gladstone. The purpose of the Gladstone Urban Renewal Agency is to administer the statutory tax increment revenues for funding the goals and objectives of the Gladstone Urban Renewal District Plan through designated projects within the district. The Gladstone City Council adopted a goal to create a robust economic ecosystem that supports the growth of all businesses and revitalizes Gladstone's downtown into an inviting destination. With that, I am pleased to present the 2025-2027 proposed biennial budget for GURA. Through fiscal year 26-27, funding will continue to cover the remaining debt from the Civic Center project. Additionally, the agency is responsible for financing the city's full faith and credit issue, which will be retired in fiscal year 28-29. In spring of 2024, the city engaged urban renewal specialists to evaluate the feasibility of expanding or reconfiguring district boundaries. Later that year, a substantial amendment to the Gladstone Urban Renewal Plan was approved, adding 21.5 acres to the downtown corridor and increasing the maximum indebtedness by $10,174,550. Bringing the total to $33,763,977. This adjustment represents the highest allowable increase without requiring approval from other taxing districts. All affected districts were notified of the amendment, but none raised objections. As a result, the GURA budget includes allocated funds for the following: Potential projects downtown core include improvements to Portland Avenue in accordance with the downtown revitalization plan, which call for a multimodal street with bike lanes, curb extensions, street furnishings such as streetlights and benches, stormwater infrastructure, funding for the trolley bridge, and then private development assistance, including a storefront program, technical assistance program, pre-development funding, and financial participation in new private development, including fee offsets and gap funds. Urban renewal can enhance communities by revitalizing town center cores, fostering economic development, and driving public investments that encourage private sector growth. When executed effectively, it leads to new housing opportunities, vibrant shopping and dining destination, and expanded business prospects, ultimately enriching the quality of life for Gladstone citizens. Respectfully submitted by Jackie Betts, Gladstone City Administrator.
So that, excuse me, that in a nutshell tells you all of the changes that have gone on with the Urban Renewal District. The only thing that I would add to that is that we have a maximum indebtedness that is remaining that is now increased to $13,336,856 more that can be spent out of the Urban Renewal Agency or District. The budget highlights, as Jackie had mentioned, and then the final thing that I would mention on here is that we make our special payment out of here back over to the general fund for the financing. We only have one more year within this upcoming biennium, one more year of payment left on it, and then it will be paid in full. Any questions on the Urban Renewal Agency?
Don't be shy. This is a concept that a lot of us are not really all that familiar with. A few minutes ago, we approved a tax rate for the city. If you went to your property tax bill and applied that rate to your assessed value, you would come up with a figure that's slightly higher than what it's showing on your property tax bill for the city of Gladstone. And that's because of urban renewal. A little portion that normally would go to the city is segregated away, and it's found in another item lower on your property tax bill for urban renewal. It's the total amount is the same, and then you do this for all the other taxing districts in the area. They're slightly lower than their permanent tax rates, and it all gets channeled into one thing to be focused on certain items, the goal of which is undeveloped lands become developed, lands that are underutilized become utilized in a more effective way, and perhaps create a larger tax base. And whatever money is set aside for a while comes back if that proposed development and growth takes place. And that's the theory behind it. And so we have to budget what we do with those funds, and we have a good summary of it on page 5. Anything you want to call out as a highlight on there that you haven't already mentioned? Mostly right now, projected debt service, and then projects would be the other part of it. So officially, I will adjourn the Gladstone City Budget Committee and reconvene as the Gladstone Urban Renewal Agency Budget Committee, and I will recognize a motion to approve this budget if there are no more questions or comments. And I will turn this over to Councilor Labonte again. Okay.
I move that the Budget Committee of the Gladstone Urban Renewal Agency approve the biennium budget for the period of July 1st, 2025 and ending June 30th, 2027 in the amount of $6,804,477.
All right. Are there any questions, comments, or discussion on this matter? Oh, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, thank you. Moved by Counselor Blau, seconded by Counselor Huckabee. No discussion? All right. Haley, will you call the roll, please?
Josh Smith,
Approved.
Counselor Garlington,
Approved.
Counselor Huckabee,
Yes.
Rose Fuller,
Approve.
Counselor Mitchell,
Approved.
Shane O'Brien,
Approve.
Counselor Blaug,
Approved.
Counselor Labonte,
Approve.
Mayor Milch.
Approved. A motion passes. And then we have a second motions related to this well, I'll let you, Committee Member O'Brien read it.
I move that the Budget Committee of the Gladstone Urban Renewal Advisor Agency approve property taxes for the 2025-2026 fiscal year by option one plan, 100% from division of tax.
All right, so this is the name for the technical means by which the other tax districts divide a little bit of their revenue and put it in this. Okay, is there a second?
I second it.
All right, it's been moved by Committee Member O'Brien and seconded by Committee Member Fuller. Any further discussion? All right, Haley?
Josh Smith,
Approved.
Counselor Garlington,
Approved.
Counselor Huckabee,
Yes.
Rose Fuller,
Approve.
Counselor Mitchell,
Approved.
Shane O'Brien,
Approved.
Counselor Blaug,
Approved.
Counselor Labonte,
Approve.
Mayor Milch.
Approved. This motion also passes. Murray and Mitchell, would you like to make a motion? Counselor Mitchell. The third one,
The third one, what, just the whole,
the third paragraph.
I move that the Budget Committee of the Gladstone Urban Renewal Agency approve property taxes for the 2026-2027 fiscal year by the option one plan, 100% from division of tax.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, Counselor Mitchell made the motion. Counselor Huckabee approved. Same motion as Counselor O'Brien, except for the second year of the biennium. So the same process, 2 years in a row. Any discussion? Haley, we're getting near the end here. One more roll call.
Josh Smith,
Approved.
Counselor Garlington,
Approved.
Counselor Huckabee,
Yes.
Rose Fuller,
Approve.
Counselor Mitchell,
Approved.
Shane O'Brien,
Approved.
Counselor Blaug,
Approved.
Counselor Labonte,
Approve.
Mayor Milch.
Approved. Motion adopted unanimously. What else have we to do?
I just wanted to publicly acknowledge that our finance consultant, Kathy Brucker, is leaving us next month. She has been with the city for about 7 years. She's done an incredible job getting us to a biennium budget. This is her last budget, so I just wanted to say thank you, Kathy, for all that you've done for the city of Gladstone.
Well, I'm grateful for the help of staff, not only our administrative staff, but our program staff too, in getting us to the point of having a well-prepared budget that was easy to move through and with devoted committee members who came and served and 2 years now, this is the third technically year. And we got through it this year in one meeting, which is really helpful. So we won't have to come back. Well, we might have to come back because some things could change and who knows what we'll have to do. But for now, we're in a good place that some cities really struggle to get to this point, and we've done it. So it is about 8:09 p.m. and the Budget Committee of the Gladstone Urban Renewal Agency is adjourned, as is the Budget Committee of the City of Gladstone. So we're done. Thank you.